Rose Garden, and welcome to another wrap-up and TBR video. I'm Avalon Roselin, indie author, and your book reviewer for the evening. The past season is, admittedly, not one of my favorites as an allergy sufferer, but I am trying harder to find things that I enjoy about it. After all, spring is going to come, whether I want it to or not. Over the past month and a half, I have enjoyed rainy days that leave the world feeling clean and ready to grow, cool mornings and mildly warm afternoons, and the array of colors appearing everywhere as wildflowers burst through the last bit of chill left by winter. I've been trying to get out into my garden more often, despite my sniffles and sneezes, to trim down the weeds and nurture the returning perennials and the vegetables that overwintered on the porch. One of my favorite bookish channels lately is A Moment of Wonder, which my mom introduced me to. Her style of content is very different from what I usually watch and forces me to pay attention. In one of her videos, she recommended A Treachery of Swans by A.B. Poranek, and my husband took an interest in it immediately and purchased the Barnes & Noble exclusive edition. He doesn't read a lot of books nowadays, but when he does, he devours them. He even read some of A Treachery of Swans out loud to me and asked that I read it when he was done. So I did. A Treachery of Swans is a sapphic spin on the Swan Lake Ballet, set in a world of tarnished beauty and lost magic. Odile, a sorcière with golden blood, is taken in as a child by Regnal, the eccentric and intimidating proprietor of the Theatre du Roi, in order to be trained as an actress and thief so she can steal the couronne, a powerful enchanted artifact in the possession of the royal family, with which he claims he can restore magic to the world. To do this, Odile takes the place of Marie d'Audette d'Avenir in order to be betrothed to the Dauphine Aimé. But the world of the noblesse is not as it appears on the surface, and Odile needs Marie's help to unravel the web of secrets that threatens to bind them all in darkness. And if that wasn't enough of a hook, Ray said that both of the main couples in the book are different flavors of Stargoth, my current favorite ship. Add in the fact that Princess Tutu is one of my all-time favorite anime, and, well, how was I not supposed to love this book? One of the aspects of this book that Ray praised when talking to me about it was the world building, and I agree. Even without an audience surrogate character, the narrative delivers the exposition in delectable bite-sized chunks. The best example of this is when Odile, disguised as Marie, attends a church sermon. Unlike a certain other book I have thoroughly roasted on this channel, Odile actually has opinions about the topic of the sermon, providing the reader with both the commonly accepted version of the story and how it relates to the public's general beliefs, and the original version told by the sorcières. The pacing also keeps the story moving right along. I was surprised at how quickly Odile succeeds in becoming engaged to Aimé, but there is so much other stuff going on and a layered mystery plot to unravel. I would have been fine if the plot of the book had been Odile trying to seduce this gay prince and gradually coming to understand him better as a human, but the fact that it was not that hooked me in even deeper. I was actually surprised by the direction certain plot points took, and I wanted to know the answers as badly as Odile and Marie. Percy Jackson and the Olympians, The Chalice of the Gods by Rick Riordan was everything I wanted in a follow-up to the original series. Percy's going to college! I am so proud of him. But first he has to contend with the actual grueling process of college admissions, with some demigod flavor. I love it. I love that it's lower stakes. I love that we're back in Percy's point of view. I love the references to past adventures and the opening of The Lightning Thief. I love how much we get to see Sally Jackson. I love that it's Percy and Annabeth and Grover going on more episodic minor quests that don't have the fate of the world riding on their shoulders. Obviously, Percy is still somewhat stressed, and his life is constantly in danger, but this still feels like he's getting a break for the first time in 5 years. It feels like once this collection is done, this will be a great way to say goodbye to him as a main character. Maybe if Riordan continues writing books in this universe, we'll see his and Annabeth's kid someday, hopefully as a supporting character, not a main. I am very excited for Wrath of the Triple Goddess. Just the fact that Hecate will be appearing, apparently with a quest set near Halloween to pet sit her familiars, I need it in paperback this fall. Definitely going to be my Samhain gift this year. Next up, I found a few books at some little free libraries while out on a walk with my dad. I read the two graphic novels to see if they'd be good fits for the classroom, which I figured they would be. The first was Drama by Raina Telgemeier, which I didn't love. But the kids really like it, so it'll still be going to the class library. I am willing to admit that I am not the target demographic for this book. As a teacher, I have to live on the other side of middle school relationship drama, and it sucks. Literally one of the worst parts of the job. But I will admit that Telgemeier does capture how quickly young teens' opinions and emotions change. Unfortunately, though true to life, it doesn't necessarily make for a good fictional story. I was happy with how Callie developed in regards to her crush on Greg, but everything else felt kind of unresolved and flat, with things changing between characters so rapidly. It felt like there were a dozen plots happening at once. At least it delivered on the title. I also picked up Tidesong by Wendy Xu and was utterly charmed by it. What can I really say other than this needs an animated adaptation done by Studio Ghibli now? Sophie, a young witch, is struggling with her magic, so she goes to her great aunt's house to learn more. However, her aunt's strict approach only exacerbates Sophie's anxiety, and one fateful night, she accidentally binds herself to a young dragon named Lear in an act that causes him to lose his memories. However, the friendship that develops between the two of them might be the key to both of their happiness. It was so soft and cozy and lovely. The artwork is so beautiful and peaceful. It really reminds me of Aquacorn Cove by Kay O'Neill, which I read not that long ago. Having both of these books in my classroom library is definitely going to lead to some young reader's beloved childhood memories. At long last, I finally cracked open Grady Hendrix's Paperbacks from Hell to learn more about the history of horror fiction from the 70s and 80s. For some reason, I thought that the book was primarily about the cover art, which is definitely a major feature. But Hendrix also chronicles the rise of horror fiction novels, the influences and trends they followed, and what other media was popular at the time that helped define the genre. It's written with the same wit that Hendrix uses in his fiction, and it's a subject I'm interested in, so I enjoyed what I read. That said, it is kind of a table book, in that I really don't want to sit and read it for a long time, but browsing is a pleasant experience. I didn't put any audiobooks on my TBR for Ostara because I hadn't been able to focus on them for a while, but I decided to give The Runaway King by Jennifer A. Nielsen, narrated by Charlie McWade, a chance. I really loved the audiobook of The False Prince and how well it captured Sage's snarky narration, so I thought that maybe The Runaway King would be similar. And boy was it! I think the Ascendant series might be one of my new favorites, for the most part. I am still not a huge fan of Jaren and Imogen's romantic feelings, and this seems to be a point of contention for a lot of readers. But it isn't a big enough issue for me to put off finishing the series. I look forward to listening to The Shadow Throne next to find out how Jaren is going to get himself and his kingdom out of the trouble it's in, even if I'm not thrilled with what I expect will be a focus on rescuing Imogen. I just love how clever he is and how his mouth gets him into and out of trouble. I'm not the first person to make this comparison, but it's a little like watching Jack Sparrow in the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, when he was still cunning and good at making plans, before being flanderized by the sequels. I also ended up listening to A House with Good Bones by T. Kingfisher, narrated by Mary Robinette Kowal, and it became a buddy read with Snapdragon because she was the person who introduced me to Kingfisher's books, and I always think of her whenever I see a new one. I enjoyed A House with Good Bones a lot more than the Twisted Ones. The pacing was a little off because the third act kind of goes from 20 to 100, but Sam's narration was very fun to listen to, and what can I say? I love generational family trauma haunted houses with a very slight practical magic with teeth sort of vibe. If Charmed was horror, it's a good, fun, spooky book for springtime, I think. Now we come to the end of the wrap-up and the start of the TBR for Beltane. Beltane is considered the start of the fruitful season, a time of abundance and joy, metaphorically the beginning of summer. It's a romantic time, and in spite of my general dislike of romance, I do have some romance titles on my reading list for the season. First up is Austenland by Shannon Hale. Ray and I just love the movie, so I'm excited to read the original book. It's a pretty short one, so it should go quickly. I'll probably read it out loud with Ray, since I'm sure he'll be interested in it. I also have a number of romance titles on my Kindle. I'd like to try to get through at least one of them during the season of Beltane. I've started Prince of the Sorrows by Kellen Graves, so we'll see how far I manage to get. Considering that May tends to be a very busy time for educators as we wrap up the year and submit final grades, I am not going to add anything more to my TBR at this time. If I can finish 2 romantic books, I will be very pleased with myself. Sometimes you just have to set a goal that you know you can achieve so you can feel good about something. That is all for now. Leave a comment below to let me know what's on your TBR, and keep growing until next time, Rose Garden.